I know that we can work together to move past this. On March 21st, Venus and Saturn are going to arrive in an exact conjunction in Pisces. This is going to show up in our relationships, and we've likely been feeling this aspect build for the last few days, even up to a week. Now, this is going to be kind of a big one. This might be a little bit of an ouchie for people because Venus in her exaltation has high, very expansive, and lofty ideals and visions and dreams for what is possible, especially in love, especially in relationships. And maybe you've had a chance to connect with this since Venus entered Pisces, just like feeling more appreciative, feeling more present, feeling more gratitude and loving for the people who are present in your life, for the people who support you, for the people who you love, for the people who are just always there. This could also be showing up as divine love, Venus and Pisces, just feeling connected to source on some level, feeling connected to something bigger than you. Venus in Pisces has a tendency to see what we want to see, or see the potential rather. Venus in Pisces has an ability to help us connect with someone's soul, to this all encompassing love, versus the sign of its opposite, Venus in Virgo, that sees all the little details and can have a tendency to be a little nitpicky, seeing the good versus seeing the bad. Venus in Pisces has an ability to say it's all one, it's all part of the whole, it's all perfect in some weird way. Now, that's where Saturn comes in, because Saturn says, we're lying to ourselves, or we're not seeing the things that we need to see. Saturn and Venus, when they meet up in hard aspect, it's always a chance to check in our relationships. How supported are we feeling? That little issue, that little thing that we've been letting go for a long, long time, maybe it all kind of reaches some sort of crescendo here. We are in eclipse season. We are a few days out from a lunar eclipse in Libra, the sign of relationships. This Venus is going to rule that lunar eclipse in Libra, this Venus conjunct Saturn. So this is going to be big, okay? We're not going to just be feeling this on the 21st. We're going to be feeling this for 2 weeks. We're going to be feeling this for 2.5 weeks here. And maybe even longer if this eclipse at 5 Libra is hitting an important point in your chart. So this is a major period for problem solving in relationships. That's the nice thing about Saturn, is it says, hey, we've been ignoring that. We've been letting that go. How about we do something about it? Can we confront that? Saturn sort of helps us get to a point of like, okay, I can no longer deny that. I can no longer ignore it. I can no longer pretend that it's just gonna work itself out. There's something that Saturn asks of us that we have to do something. We have to take action in some capacity to move the energy, to solve the problem, to mount and leap over the hurdle. There's some sort of thing that we must do. So look and see around this aspect what is coming up and where's the solution. Can you have a conversation about it? Can you be clear about what you want? Some people are afraid to communicate. I see this a lot, not just like in my personal life with people who I know, but a lot of times in my client sessions too. And how sometimes some of us are afraid that we'll offend the other person. We're afraid that we'll say the wrong thing. But that's one of the big lessons of these eclipses in Aries Libra, is that sometimes we have to say our piece so that there can be peace. It might rock the boat for a moment, but we ultimately want to get to a point where we can have open dialogue with one another in our relationships without fear of upset, without fear of disrepair, because there's a way to say it. There is a way to say it without doing that. There is a way to communicate what your true desire is, or what is really bothering you, without offending or upsetting the other. There is. And if they do get offended unnecessarily, that's a them problem, not a you problem. So the thing here with Venus Saturn in Pisces is that there's also a need to acknowledge the humanity, to acknowledge the limitation. Because again, sometimes our expectations are very lofty and we're only human. Not all of us can hit every box. Not all of us can check every box, and not all the time either. Maybe we check all the boxes sometimes or over time. But we have to acknowledge the possibilities and the real limitations too. That's also a thing. So sometimes with a combination like this, there can be a recognition of the impossible, a recognition that we need to adjust our expectation a little bit. If there's been some sort of romantic bubble, and I think Venus's entire arc in Pisces can really be bubbly, especially since we're going to be arriving with Neptune in early April. But this is just a little blip here where the bubble gets burst, or we see a hole in the bubble and we're going to try to repair it. We're going to try to fix it. There can also be, for some folks, the realization that the relationship is not going to support you, that the relationship is not going to progress, that there can be some sort of big disappointment in love around this time. There can be themes of unrequited love or just differences in character and desire that cannot be reconciled. For example, like people who love each other so much and have a connection, but they live in different states and neither one is willing to make that move, for example. Or people who fall in love, but one person really, really wants to have kids and the other person, it's a hard no. Those are really big differences that typically don't just work themselves out. So that's the type of situation that we might see with Saturn conjoining Venus in Pisces, is like there's this grand idea, this grand vision, this high expectation, and Saturn comes in and says, no, not all of that is possible. Or if we want that to happen, we have to really work for that. So this can also help us define the relationship. And so like if people are just like they're into each other, they're flirty, they've hooked up a few times, Venus Saturn can say, hey, what are we? And this is one of those situations where I think this conjunction can really serve, because Venus in Pisces is like, yes, like let's choose love, let's cement it, let's lock it down. Be a great time to get engaged, maybe. I don't know. Some people might have different opinion on that, considering how Saturn can also feel. But I bet we'll see it. I bet people will lock it down. I bet we'll see it. Not that I would necessarily choose to see that in a wedding chart per se, but I bet we'll see it. And the other thing that can be really important here is looking toward the future. Venus's conjunction with Saturn can help us plan for the future with our loved ones. Now, if the issues are arising, I want to empower you to not get too heartbroken and to just wallow. I want you to try to do the Saturn thing, confront it, try to find a solution, try to resolve it. It's worth it. It's worth it to try. So that's a little bit about our Venus-Saturn conjunction in Pisces. I hope it serves you in the highest, and I'll catch you next time. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also head on over to my website, catherineurban.com, where you can book your next astrology reading. We'll go into depth into your natal chart, your progressions, your profections, your solar return, your transits, and beyond. You can also join my mailing list where you can stay up to date with me on new classes as well as article drops. I look forward to connecting with you, and I'll see you next time.